Welcome back to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. I am your host, Sherry Ricard. I'm bringing you weekly interviews with fascinating guests, action-packed episodes, highly relatable stories that help women reboot, regroup, and reinvent themselves in family, lifestyle, and business. And of course, always committed to keeping it real. Now let's dive in.
The loss of a loved one is a nearly universal emotional crisis. Unprocessed grief and painful feelings can be buried, leaving you to feel numb. But there is hope. Certified grief counselor, RN, and author Sherry Ricard shares her story of how to cope in her first book, Wake Up Call, A Mother's Grief Journey, after the loss of her 17-year-old son. This book, along with Sherry's other books, are available on Amazon as well as on sherryricard.com.
Today's episode is sponsored by the Truth Treatment System. All Truth Treatment System products have one thing in common. They work. Founded by Ben Fuchs, he's a pharmacist, nutritionist. All of his products are made with 100% active and functional ingredients that will make the true difference in your skin. No fillers, preservatives, waxes, emulsifiers, oils, or fragrances. Their ingredients leverage the latest biochemical understandings and utilize proven strategies gleaned from years of compounding prescription skin health products for physicians and the most discerning patients. You can use discount code REALGIRLTALK at checkout for 10% on all of their products as many times as you like by visiting www.truthtreatments.com. Welcome back to Real Girl Talk, guys. I have an amazing guest, and I know I say that every week, and it's because I do have the most amazing, fabulous women that come on Real Girl Talk and share with you guys every single week. And this week is no different. I have Jana Webb. She is a celebrity trainer, former athlete, reality star from Real Housewives of Toronto. She's also the founder and creator of Joga, and she's going to tell us all about that. It's her unique brand of yoga for athletes. She just recently launched her program on Fit Plan. She will tell us all about that. But Jana basically developed Joga following her long rehab from a car crash that left her severely injured. And she actually has had 2 car crashes that have led her to her passion and purpose. Welcome to the show, Jana.
Hi.
Hey, so Jana and I were actually talking right before we started to air, and I let her know that I'm stumbling with my words. So I'm probably going to let Jana do most of the talking today because I can't seem to pronounce anything. I don't know if it's because it's the end of the week or what it is. But Jana, I am really, really excited to have you on because one thing that I did not know, and you just informed me, is that you've had 2 accidents and they've led you to your passion that you have and health and fitness. So share a little bit about your story, I guess starting with your first accident and where you went from there, and then the last one that was a near fatal accident.
Yeah, so many years ago, compared to my second accident, I call the first accident just a fender bender, but nonetheless, it led me down this path of recovery. And I was in school at the time and I had this injury in my shoulder, and one of my practitioners was like, oh, you need to try, yoga. So I was that typical person, an athlete in a yoga class trying to do all those ridiculous postures that I had no business doing. And also I felt, putting my legs behind, like all the things. I'm like, I have tight hips, tight hamstrings. I can't touch my toes. What am I doing here? But I always like my introduction to yoga was like a bad relationship in that like I kept going back because there was good things about it. But the actual physical part of it was like horrible for my body.
Yeah.
What I found is the breathing and the relaxation and those meditation tools that yoga offers was very rehabilitatory for me and my chronic pain that I was dealing with at the time from this first accident. And then I became curious and I was like, why isn't there anything out there for bodies like mine that are tight and athletic and maybe don't really understand like, the chakras and, kind of all the fluff around yoga. I mean,
Right.
when you're trained as an athlete, you're very much results driven and everything has to have a purpose for your program. And so I became curious and I went to all these different yoga classes and tried everything and got the same result. I kept going back because I liked the breathing and relaxation, but I kept injuring myself. And eventually I found a program in Japan called Ishta Yoga, which is individualized and it's
Okay.
an acronym. So it stood for the integrated science of Tantra, Hatha, and Ayurveda. So for me, the word individualized really resonated
Yeah.
and the word science. I was like, okay, this is something I could wrap my head around. So I studied there and learned, and it was kind of one of those things. I mean, I was in Japan learning this thing, and I had to teach when was doing my practicum people who didn't even speak English. So I think a huge part of my learning curve was I had to, be very specific with my cues to get people into the positions that I wanted them. Long story short, I found my passion. It was one of those things where I started to teach, and I don't know, I just had this innate understanding of the human body, and I was just able to help people. I couldn't really understand why at the time. Um, Came back to Canada and just started to work. I just started to teach everybody that I possibly could. And when I say everywhere and everybody, I'm like in my house in like a little den to running around to people's houses, to community centers, to little, signs with come do yoga with Jana. Like I was just so excited about this new thing that I had found.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And funny story, actually, I remember walking into a hot yoga studio and I was just back and it was just down the street from my house and I had a 2-year-old at the time. So I was like, oh, this would be perfect because I could just like, run, teach a class, go back, and do all the things as a mom. And I know, but that was before my child. Anyways, it's all one big like this is part like I have a concussion, so I don't really remember.
Oh,
There was a child born at some point, and there was this memory at one point. But I walked into this studio, and I was like, oh, I could teach. I just live down this street, and this yoga lady gave me the like one up and down, and she's like, yeah, we'll call ya. And I was like, oh my god, yoga people are mean. I was like, why is it so hard to get a yoga teaching job? Like I came from an extensive marketing background. I had made a lot of money, and I was like, I'm not gonna let some yoga girl, you know what I mean? I can't work here. So that's when I got this idea. I was like, I'll do it myself, and so I just started to teach. And here's where the sports part came in. So I started to work in a clinic and I was hired as the yoga therapist. And so that meant I saw all different types of bodies with different types of injuries and worked in a clinic with like doctors and chiropractors and, this whole integrated kind of platform. And I remember seeing people with problems. I'm like, I'm not educated, and like you have something that I am not educated or, deemed,
right.
to
Yeah.
try to fix. But I just studied and surrounded myself with really smart people and started to, just use what I knew and just people just kept coming. And one of those people was the owner of the clinic who was an ex-professional football player. And he was like, oh man, he's like, I wish I had done something like this while I was playing. And so
Oh,
and
wow.
that's kind of where this journey started. So he had worked for the Calgary Stampeders, which appears the CFL, not the NFL, but the
Hmm.
Canadian Football League. And he got me an opportunity, or he got me an opportunity with the strength coach from the Calgary Stampeders. And they were like, oh, would you come teach a yoga session for the players? And I was like, sure. And I remember showing up that day so ill prepared for that moment because, first of all, you're not in a studio or, you're in a facility and there's like
Right.
65 like big ass players looking at
Yeah, I was
you.
going to say there's some benefits to teaching yoga to some football players.
Right. Well, and I was like, they're looking at me and I'm looking at them and it was just all awkward and bad. I was like, they're like, is this little itty bitty blonde thing going to teach us yoga? Like, and anyways, that first session failed miserably. Like it wasn't successful because I was trying to make all these big bodies do yoga, right? Like they're just not predispositioned for these types of movements. And that's where I had that light bulb moment. I was like, who's doing this? Like, who's bridging the gap between yoga and sport? So I asked for a second opportunity, and that led to 2 years of me working with them and training with them for free. And I just did my work, and I just started to understand and have conversations with the athletes. And I was like, did this help you, sleep better? Did this help you for your warm up, etc.? And what I found myself doing was making programs. And what I found myself doing was manipulating all these yoga postures into moves that were cohesive to how athletes train. So
Oh, wow.
never see a football player stop midfield and do tree posture or like hold a posture.
Right.
Typically, right? And
Right.
so you see them in movement. So I started to study biomechanics of sport and apply this amazing yoga breathing and relaxation to these movements as opposed
Wow.
to static holds. And then the name Joga, which is kind of a cool story, came from I had bought a yoga studio at the time, just a little business, and the quarterback won the MVP that year. In his speech, thanked me, and I was like, "Oh my God, what? This is happening right now."
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah, and he's like, "You got to call this something." He's like, "This is like in my 17 years of playing pro sports, like this isn't something like I've never done before." So we were brainstorming, and my name's Jana and Jocks, and he's like, "What about Joga?" And I was like, "Joga?" And he's like, "Yeah, like Joga." And I was like, he's like, "As a dude, I feel really good saying I do yoga."
Right.
Yoga it is. Yoga it
Joga.
is. Yeah, like 15 years ago, and here we are.
That is awesome. So at what point was that, after your second accident, or that was before?
This was all before. Yeah, this was all before.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so I started teaching, moved back here I'm in Toronto in Canada, and just started to work with a bunch of athletes. I got really busy. And then that's when I created my curriculum and I started a certification program. And then fast forward to 3.5 years ago, I was just my business was booming. I just got casted for the Housewives, kind of at the top of my game, right? I had been through divorce and kind of got through all the aftermath of that. And I was
Yeah.
like, life is good. Like, here I am. I'm on a national reality TV show. My business is great. I'm like single and happy and like clear of, like all the
Right.
wrong with a divorce.
And I'll have to have you back on, and we'll do a show just on divorce. How about that?
Yeah, like, how about 10 shows?
Yeah, exactly.
I got a lot to say.
We'll just do a month-long series. It's a month series with Jana on divorce and how to recover. I'm writing that in my notes. I'll let my assistant know.
Oh, man.
So what happened? So you're in your divorce and everything comes crashing down, literally. No pun intended.
So while I was on the show, I thought, I'm a marketer by like my background is marketing. So I thought, how awesome would it be to have a studio if we're filming Housewives? So I leased $1 million space in Yorkville, which is a very affluent area here in Toronto. And I was going to build this business. And the show wrapped October 30th. And literally I got a call from a Dominican baseball team to go down and trace some baseball players because I had worked a lot with the MLB and some phenomenal Dominican players. So I said yes to the job because they offered me a lot of cash, which I've never said yes to a job for money ever in my life. But I was like, I just signed this $1 million lease. I was going to bootstrap the business. So I was like, I need the money.
Right.
And I flew down there. I did my work. And then literally on the way back from Santo Domingo to Punta Cana, where my flight was, I was in a head-on car collision.
Oh.
Hit by a drunk driver. Yeah. And
Oh my goodness. A drunk driver.
in a third world country.
Oh my goodness.
So there's no 911, like there's no emergency services. I was literally like sitting on the side of the road with half a car, like the whole front of the car was missing. I was in the front seat.
Oh, Jana.
Yeah. So, I'm so blessed to be alive, and I'm obviously 3.5 years into my rehab, but I'm still like, that's where I was this morning. Like I still go 2 hours every day. I broke my back, and the longest, the residual trauma is this brain injury. So that's why my words get lost. And I tell people now, because I'm like, you know what, like I get confused, I get lost, I lose my memory, and it's part of my new life. Right.
Right. But you're just so positive. I mean, you're so full of light, like, and you're so positive to have gone through everything that you've gone through. I mean, you took your first accident and found a passion and a purpose for it. And then just 3 years ago, you have this horrible accident in another country and it didn't stop you, you
Yeah.
know?
And I guess it couldn't stop me, right? Because here I was, I just signed this $1 million lease. I had no investor at that time. And, if I finally did get an investor, and I built my studio from my hospital bed. Like, there's just, what do you
Wow.
do when you're self-employed? There was no medical coverage because I was in a third world country. So it's not like I had a big lawsuit or I could sue anybody. I had no coverage, like nothing. I had,
How did you go from the side of the road to getting help?
yeah. So I don't remember clearly just because a lot of it's kind of escape, but I do remember at one point a bunch of local Dominicans trying to pull me out of the car, out of like what would have been a jaws of life situation in North America. But that's when my back was broke. I knew something was wrong with my back and I couldn't tell them because I don't speak Spanish. And in that moment, I just remember like so much was going on at one time. I was like, I need to get out of here. I need help. And then somebody called somebody, I forget. And then eventually I got to the hospital, which is another hour away. I don't even think I was strapped in. Like, I think I was just like on a gurney to get to the hospital, to then being in intensive care and, just wanted to get home to my son, right? Like all I could think about.
Ah, gosh, this is horrible. My heart is just breaking for you because I would be terrified. I would be terrified.
I think, to be honest, my mom and dad, obviously, and my family was more terrified because I was so on so many drugs, like for the pain
Oh,
Dominican. Like, I didn't really know where I was. I just kept saying, no, no, don't come visit me. I'm coming home tomorrow. Like, I kept telling people, no, I'm coming home tomorrow. Like, I'm coming home, and I didn't realize like what had happened to me. To then
ah,
eventually getting airlifted back to Canada. But then I found out later that nobody would fly me back because your back is broken and I risk becoming paralyzed, like if you hit turbulence in the airplane. Or so
mhm.
I remember just signing my life away in Dominican, and I was like, get me home to Canada. Like, I needed to see my son and talk about like that human moment from your being a mom like yourself who's lost your child. And
Yeah,
I remember William walking into the hospital and seeing me like laid up like that, and the look on his face. I was just like, oh my God, I need to show my child that everything's going to be okay. So I
right.
told him, I was like, no, Will, he was scheduled to come back the next day at 11. And I was like, no matter what happens tomorrow, when he comes in, I need to show him that his mom can walk. And so I
Right.
got up on a walker and I just faked it. I got him to video it. And from that day, I didn't stop walking.
Mm.
And so,
And
yeah, yeah.
I am just sitting here thinking this is just an example of, and I had a conversation with someone this week, is our why power is
Mm,
so much stronger than our willpower
yeah.
because we can will something all day long. But if there's not a why as the end result, then we do not sometimes have the strength that we need. But I truly believe in the why power because I don't have the willpower to eat right every single day, but I do have the why. And that's why I've been successful for really the last month. And I've been challenged with my weight loss journey for years since my son passed away because it was just, my drug of choice was M&Ms. I tell everyone, it wasn't a real drug, but although sugar is, that was my drug of choice was M&Ms. And so I've struggled with my weight because of my will, but I have incorporated a why for the first time in my life. And I think that's the reason that I'm going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And your why was your son.
Yeah, my why is always my son. Like
Mm.
I have his tattoo on my foot. Even when I started teaching yoga, I put his tattoo on my foot because I was like, every day I go to my mat and I look down at my feet, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because just
Oh,
jobs, right? Like, it gets monotonous. And I always say like he's everything for me. Like, he really is. I'm a single mom, and I travel a lot, and I've built this whole business by myself. But at the end of the day, like, all that matters is him.
Uh, and so tell us about, I want to hear more about the Joga because obviously it saved your life again because you're incorporating things that you've taught football players, professional football players in their life. And now you have this horrible accident and you know exactly what to do to get your health back on track, even though you're hurting. And I can't imagine that the pain of breaking your back. See, Jen, I can't speak today. I don't know what it is, but you knew, I mean, you know what to do. Some people would not know what to do. They would have to hire someone like you to say, show me what to do. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about the Joga. And I want to be able to know more about the app because I'm downloading the app. I want to
Yeah.
download the app. So I want to hear more about the app that you have that everyone can follow. So tell us a little bit about Joga.
Okay. So Joga is designed on what we call the bracing system. So we understand that athletes move at high speed and get hit at high speed. So the whole idea is about core stability. And people like interpret core as like having a nice stomach, but we interpret core as like actually how you stabilize your spine in
Yeah.
movement. So
Yeah.
everything to do with Joga is about stabilization and how you move in three-dimensional planes with the stabilization. So all of the cueing is to brace your spine. And so when I got hit by that cement truck, I know like it's like 15 years of neuromuscular memory, right? And I intrinsically stabilized my lower back. And I truly believe like, A, this is why I'm walking today. And B, this is why I recovered so quickly. Like compared, like if you know what I mean, to the trauma that was in my body. Not
Right.
fully recovered. I still have really bad whiplash and a concussion, but in terms of like just functionality, um, and if you think about it, like a football player gets hit, you know what I mean, at high speeds, or hockey players, whatnot. So the
Right.
whole program is based on that. Um, I always say to date, it's the best program out there for athletes because I was this pioneer of creating something specifically like bridging those two worlds between yoga and sport. There's lots of yoga for athletes programs out there. This is
Mm-hmm.
entirely different. This is more based on like movement system and neurological muscle memory, and
Okay.
everybody can benefit from it. Like I always say, if you have lower back pain or knee pain or pain in your body, it's because there's joint dysfunctionality and or you're asymmetrical. So one side of the body is always loading, in the wrong way. And so this program is about realignment, and it's about strength from like your foot all the way up through your body to your hands. And then the side benefit of it is because I look at the human system and how we can optimally stack the subsystems of the body to get a really effective, efficient result in the body. Because sometimes I have 5 minutes to work with an athlete and to create a result. And so I've had to create a very sophisticated program that's results driven because I'm working with the best athletes in the world, right?
Wow. Yes.
And so the most exciting part of this is now I've gotten this 20 years of experience behind this program. Like I said before, by surrounding myself with really brilliant people and just getting the program just keeps getting better and better because there's more minds behind it, sports doctors, like I work in the NBA, the NFL, the NHL. So, I've got all these brains behind this one program to now be able to launch this to, I say, the urban athlete, the mom athlete, the kid athlete,
Right.
the athlete in you, right, on this Fit Plan app is just so exciting for me because I know that my program changes lives. And so to have this opportunity for this platform for anybody around the world to download it, it's just,
Right.
it's just like it's been a goal of mine my entire career because everyone's like, oh, do you just train athletes? And I was like, well, this is how the program was designed. But now I'm like, everybody can benefit from this program because everyone's
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. Is it just for athletes? Because that's a unique group, but you have also maybe women that were athletes, high school, college athletes, but now they find themselves in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And they think about, oh, back in the good old days, let's bring back the good old days and let's get strong.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's for now that I've been out there teaching now to the masses. I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone needs this program because it makes you strong. And my whole message now since my car accident is like, and I guess this is where you get this positive vibe from me because first of all, I'm so grateful to be alive, and I feel like I got a second chance.
Yeah.
And so second of all, with that comes me. I'm a little bit bossy with people now. I'm like, we have one chance with our bodies and our lives, and it's up to you. You're accountable for your strength. And the more you can prepare yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally, like there will be adversity at some point in our lives. There just will be. And so all we can do is, I always say, prepare for battle, right? Because life is a battle. And
Right.
all we can do is just equip ourselves with the best mental, physical, and emotional tools. So when these things happen, someone dies or there's disease or you get injured, you have a better chance of getting through it, right?
Right. Oh, I 100% agree. And I'm excited about actually seeing Joga and what's it's all about because I'm trying to with with myself, and I know a lot of women suffer from neck pain, and they have their arthritis, and they have joint pains and knee pains, and I've had lower chronic back pain for many, many years. And I used to be a runner. I was that woman that was 31. I had 2 children, and I was out there running 6 miles on a Saturday and loving it because it's my time. Headphones on. I know some people are listening going, oh gosh, I can never be a runner, but that's what gave me peace. It gave me peace. It was my time, and I felt so good. And I tell people now, I could not run to the refrigerator if I was starving to death. I just can't do it anymore. But I'm out of shape.
Oh, well, this is it. And the reason like you love that, because we call that meditation, right? Anything movement and repetition is meditation. And so I would say to people, whatever you're doing is awesome. But at some point in our lives, like the body does wear and tear. And if you had just had 2 kids and you didn't train your pelvis properly after those children, of course you have low back pain, and so I get all the broken people. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to fix you. And it's about being non-invasive. Like yoga's non-invasive. There's no jumping, and you get completely fit from it, because again, it's very strategic. We look at like stress levels, and people can be eating well and exercising and not losing a pound on the scale or not getting the results they want just because they're stressed, right? So it's really about understanding the impacts of stress and like our environment and what that does to the ecosystem of our body. And I'm like, okay, so if we know all those things, then let's create something strategically based on all of those things we know. And that's Joga.
So smart. So smart. I'm so excited. I'm literally pumped right now about the Joga. I'm all about the Joga. I'm putting the Joga on my vision board, and I am pumped about Joga. Now, I know we have limited time, but I want to touch with you a little bit about the Housewives of Toronto, because I know we have Housewives fans that listen to Real Girl Talk, because I have a lot of Bravo celebrities, is what I call them, on my show. So a little bit about the Housewives, and I've heard this from other women, and I'm friends with many of them, but with the Housewives of Toronto, how did that come about? How did you manage to land on that show?
Yeah, I have no idea to this day. I'm just like, how did they find me? But I truly believe, like when you set, like you say, passion, purpose, like all these things, I've had this vision of what I want my end game to look like. And I truly believe like things just come in your path to like self-correct that all the way along. And for me, I had met Bethany Frankel years prior to in the Hamptons. I was training the client, and she had done Joga and heard about it. And she's like, you have such a wicked brand and such a wicked product. She's like, you need to get this on a platform where everybody can see it. And then like 5 years later, I get this call about this reality show. And I was like, yeah, no, I remember I was sitting watching my son play baseball, and I got this call from this production company. And I was like, yeah, no, like sounds good, but no, I had no time for like TV. Right. And so then they kept calling, and they were very interested and finally I did a Skype interview with them. They are from the West Coast. I was out here, and the Raptors, which is our NBA team, were in playoffs, and I was training the Raptors at the time. And I didn't get the seriousness of the interview. Like there was like 6 of them. I have my girlfriend waiting on the front porch. I was like, sorry, like folks, I got to go here. I've got a Raptors game. And they're like, and then they're like, bro, who keeps like, just kind of pushing us to the side. And then they asked me all these crazy questions. They're like, what's your favorite, like the pair of shoes? And I was like, I was sponsored by Under Armour at the time. So I was like, is this a trick question? So I was like, Under Armour? Like, they're like, what's your net worth? And I was like, net worth? I'm like, I'm a single mom. I just went through a divorce. I'm a bootstrapping entrepreneur. What do you mean net worth? Like, do you want to know how much money I in the bank? Like, what are we talking about here?
$200 right now.
Yeah, like I'm everything opposite of the Housewives, right? Like I definitely do not have a wealthy husband. I definitely do not have anything given to me on a silver platter. Like I definitely do not Gucci shoes every day. Like I'm in my sneaker. Well, this is like how you see me is like, how I am, right? Like I remember you said like I had to like, get dressed up, and like the most stressful part of me of that show was getting dressed up every day.
I bet.
I needed panic attacks because I live in my running shoes.
Well, you look beautiful. Like, you look absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So anyways, that's how I got on the show. And, I wrote myself a manifesto prior to going on the show, because I was like, I want to make sure that I come across as my authentic self and don't pulled into the drama and all this stuff that you see. Although you can't help it because the producers,
Oh yeah, I know.
But I think it fared out well for me. I was mostly the mediator in the show, and, kept me cool. Yeah.
So are they going to continue the Housewives of Toronto?
And we don't know at this point. It's kind of, there was some things that happened with the the network up here. So it's kind of in transition right now.
Yeah. It's always a waiting game. I know I have a few dear friends that are on Bravo reality. And I think in between, it's always a waiting game to see who's going to be brought back and who actually does not want to be brought back
Right.
and wants to escape and not be a part of it again. But I agree with Bethany Frankel. I think she is just an amazing businesswoman. And I need to get her on my show. So we'll have to figure that out, Jana, because I need her on Real Girl Talk because her business sense is off the charts. I mean, off the charts. I would take any advice that she had to give. And for her to tell you need a platform is spot on. Spot on. And I am so grateful that you came on the show and you shared. And my heart goes out to you with your car accident and some of the residual pains that you're having to deal with. I completely understand what it's like to just have pain, and you know that you're going to have some type of pain, whether it's physical or mental, emotional, whatever it is, the pain that you have, know that you can deal with it, and that God is always with you, and you're going to find a way. And if you can use that pain and turn that into something that is so passionate and so purpose driven to help other people, then you've met your whole mission in being here in life. And I truly believe that. So tell everyone, first of all, where we can find you on social media.
Yeah, so my social media handle is Joga Jana. So pretty.
Joga Jana. And where can we find Joga or your app? Where can we find the app?
Yeah, so if you just go to Joga World, everything is on there, or the Fit Plan app, and my programs are all on the Fit Plan app. So you can get to it via online, like through their website, or you just download Fit Plan app and search Joga Jana, and there I come. And I hope you got to download it. Let me know how it is.
I am, because I'm serious. We're going to come back, and I'm thinking about I'd like to have you and I'd have another lady on, and we can do a 3 conversation on surviving divorce, because I will tell you, at one point I was going to have a marriage counselor on to discuss divorce, but I'd really rather have real women that have been through it like you and I, and really tackle those issues and help other women that may be in the midst of it right now, that feel like there's no end to this torture, or women that feel like that they're not sure whether the divorce is right for them, or they're in a situation where they don't know what to do. Maybe we can be a voice for them and help them as well. But thank you, Jana, so much. I am so appreciative of you being on the show. And guys, make sure that you download Joga Jana and make sure you're following her on Instagram, because I know I am, and I'm going to keep up with it on my Instagram story. So, and I'll tag you so you can hold me accountable to my health and wellness here, because I'm on it, girl. My why is there. And guys, if you want us to hold you accountable as well on any of your health and fitness, make sure you screenshot this Real Girl Talk show, put it on your Instagram story. Make sure that you also tag Jana. So it's Joga Jana on Instagram, right? And make sure you tag Jana. And if you want us to hold you accountable, we will. Every time you tag it, we will actually put that and add that on our stories. So so we're holding you accountable. And remember, guys, step out of your comfort zone. Try something that you've never tried before. Keep your faith in God. And until next week, I hope you all have a blessed week.